Hey everyone. So today we'll be going over how to set up sheets and drawings so that you can export them as drawing sheets at the correct scale with the correct graphics that you want and be able to quickly output drawings for your presentations or eventually for permit sets. Accurately, quickly, and really utilize Revit to its fullest extent. So we're just going to use the contemporary house that we built last time as a base to then cut some sections through some plans, do some call outs and elevations, and set up sheets that we can then export as PDFs. And that is what you'll submit for your attendance today. So before we do anything, before we open the contemporary house back up, I realized last semester that a lot of people don't have PDF printers on their machines. A lot of people have Adobe PDF. A lot of firms will have Adobe or Bluebeam, but I know as students you probably don't or might not have exactly what we need. So I figured we'd go over a really easy, simple, and free, keyword there, free, PDF creator that has all of the sheet sizes that we'll need, and is pretty easy. All you have to do is go to this website, which I have also put under files, so PDF creator. All you gotta do, go here, download the free version. It's a simple executable file, and just run it. It'll install, and then we'll all have the same PDF printer when we go to print out these sheets. So go back to Revit, and once you download that, you may have to close and then restart Revit just to make sure that the printer is loaded. So if you had it open and you installed the printer and it doesn't show up, just try closing it, reopening it. It should pop back up. If you don't see it, feel free to reach out to me and we'll troubleshoot it together. So once we have that, so Contemporary House, I had just previously opened it, so it's the first one in line under my recent files. But if you can't find it, if it's not here, just go through the open sequence. So open, and then go to the folder that it is located in, Contemporary House, and hit open. All right. So, first, what we'll want to do is actually create a sheet. And sheets are located under the project browser, all the way down underneath schedules and quantities. It's located right there. Right now we have none created, so it's not going to populate anything. To create a new sheet, and a sheet is really just a blank paper space that's at a real life size, so like a 30-inch by 42-inch or a 24 by 36, that we use to then populate all the drawings on and make sure that all the scales are working together, they all fit on the sheet, and they all, ultimately look nice. So if you go to the View tab underneath the Revit, and then on the right-hand side, under Sheet Composition, is the Sheet button. Hit that, and then there's a bunch of different, there's a couple options, right? So you can go online and find preloaded sheets for what you guys are doing, and I'm assuming eventually for your studio presentations, you'll want to lay these out and do some cool graphics in Illustrator or InDesign or maybe Photoshop. So what I'll show you how to do is just set up a blank sheet. So we can click any one of these right now and just hit OK. So this is one of the preloaded Autodesk sheets, 11 by 17. And, for if you were to set up a project, side project, something like that, and needed a base template to go off of, this is pretty good. Has all the information that you need. But for what we're doing right now, it's a little cumbersome, not that aesthetically pleasing. But the one nice thing about this, which I will show you, is that it automatically populates a couple things. So sheet number is first, and if you go over to the left, you'll see C2. If you right click and go down to rename, both the name of the sheet and the drawing number come up, and we can change this to like A100 and change it to floor plans, whatever, and this will automatically populate. And then if we copied and pasted this or created a new one, if we go back up to sheet and hit OK again, the nice thing is it automatically starts populating based on a numeric order, right? So if I just typed in A100, it's going to the next one, A101, A102, A103, so on and so forth. The other nice thing is it has a couple preloaded set things along with it, owner, project name, which if you change once, so let's say UNCC, if you change it here, it changes it everywhere. And these are a little bit more technical. There are ways to program it, and I can show you how if you want. But for what we're doing right now, it's not really necessary. I just want to show you the parametric abilities of the sheet itself, of the sheet template. So how do we make this blank? Well, technically, all of these title blocks are families. So once you create a sheet, click on the title block and go up to Edit Family, and it'll open this up. And this is where you can set like the different client names, the sheet numbers, the sheet name, etc. But what we'll do for right now is actually go in, File, Save As, Family, and save this wherever you need. And I am going to save it as a 24 by 36, actually, and I'm going to do blank 24 by 36. And for families, I typically just do one maximum backup because you really don't need 3 backups for a blank title sheet. All right, and now that we have that saved, all you got to do is go in and select all of it and delete it, except for an outline, right? So we want an outline that shows the full extent of the sheet dimension that we are trying to lay out. And we can use the dimension tool to change a couple of these, right? So 36 inch by 24 inch, or 2 feet. All right, so now that we have that done, we can delete these. Now we just have a nice blank outline. Save it. The other thing too, and I don't think we've really gotten into families yet, but when you open a family, when you go into edit a family, you're opening a completely separate file. So if we go into view, and let's just close inactive right now, just so we have two. If you do switch windows, right now we have the blank 24 by 36 Revit family open, as well as the Contemporary House Revit project open. And to load the family back into the project file, what you have to do is either load into project, and if you do just the load into project, it'll keep the Revit family open, but add it back into the project file. If you do load into project and close, it'll do the same thing, but it'll just close the file and save it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And then it's just letting me drop here. But the nice thing is that when we go to view and then create a new sheet, it populates right there. And then all we have to do is open a new one. Now we have a completely blank 24 by 36. Where it's positioned in the paper space does not matter, as long as your drawings are inside of that box. And so we had set another one in there before. So all we have to do here is actually just click the Autodesk title block, go up to the Properties tab, do the drop down, go back to blank 24 by 36. Okay. All right. So now that we've done real basic sheets and how to set them up, let's go in and do a couple floor plans. So we have our level 1, level 2, and roof plan set up already. So let's let's go into our created floor plans sheet, and then let's just drag in level 1 and level 2. All right, so right now the scale is it's small, but the drawing window right now that we have is relatively large because we have the elevations so far away from the building that the extent of the drawing is pretty big. So what we can do is double click into the drawing. That opens up the drawing and lets us manipulate any of the Revit elements that live in there that we can see. And all we'll do is just drag the elevation tags closer to the building, just so that it makes the drawing a little bit more concise and tight, and it does that automatically down here as well. All right, so the other thing that this populates is a title for the drawing, a drawing title. And it's a little bit weird how you can control the title block. So if you select the drawing itself and click and move it around, the title will move around with it. But if you just click the title itself, that will only move the title, and that way you can position it according to where the actual drawing is. So like we just resized the drawing, now we're gonna adjust the title to that. The other thing is by just clicking the title, all we do is allow for the ability to move the title around, but we can't adjust the size of it. To adjust the size of it, you actually have to click on the drawing, and then these two blue buttons will pop up, and you can click on those and drag to get to an appropriate scale. You can also use the arrow keys to move things around, as I think I've said before. The other thing that you can do, it's a little bit easier, if you've rescaled something or adjusted the drawing extents, you can delete it and then go back in and re-drag it out, and the title will actually scale itself to the extent of the drawing, which is a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. All right, so we have the first floor and the second floor. They're already scaled pretty well for drawing, but I don't love, well, first of all, the west elevation and the south elevation we don't really use because we didn't detail it. So let's go ahead and delete those and hit OK, so we're not cluttering up the drawing with stuff that we don't need. We can reposition this stuff here. All right. The other thing to consider, and I'll go through a scale change as well, because you guys need to know that. But before we do that, I want to show you how you can align drawings to each other. So if they are the same scale, which these two are, and to see what scale it is, all you gotta do is click on the drawing, go to the right hand side under the properties, and that first tab shows you the scale. Right now it's at 1/8 inch equals a foot. Same thing for this one, 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. The other way to tell, if you double click in or if you right click, activate view, down at the bottom left, you can see that right there, and you can change the scale if you want. If they are, the two drawings or multiple drawings are at the same scale, they will snap to their same position, right, by this little dashed line that appears. So right now it's aligning vertically to each other. If we moved it to the side, you can see it again, it aligns vertically. So now all of the elements are aligned with each other in relation to reality. So I'm going to put these up at top. And so I don't want the elevations in the first floor plan because the north elevation's kind of out in space, looks kind of weird, and we can see where the elevations are in the second floor plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a view template. So on the right hand side, underneath properties, down at the bottom under identity data is a view template. Right now there's nothing on there. But if I go in and I hit architectural plan, right? These are all preset view templates. And real quickly, view templates are a preset graphic view for drawings, right? So if I want the drawings all at the same scale, if I want them all to have the same coloring, if all the same kind of shadows, I want them all to have elevations but not sections, or callouts but not elevations, etc. I can go in, set up one view template with all of those graphic properties preset, and then I can associate that view template with all the drawings that I want, and they'll all update. And if I want to change something in the view template, all I got to do is go into the view template, change it there, and it will propagate along to all of the drawings that are set. So right now I'm going to set it to architectural plan. Hit OK just to show it doesn't really do much. All right, so let's go back into architectural plan. Let's go in and let's turn off elevations. So these all mimic the visibility graphics, which we went into, I believe, last time. But the visibility graphics are broken into model, which are all the model components, annotation, which are all the more 2D annotation components, and then filters, analytics, imports, which we won't get into right now. We'll focus on model and annotation. So if we go into model, you can see that like ceilings, columns, doors, those are all in here. And then if we go over to annotation categories, like callouts, all these tags, more of the 2D elements are located here. And we can go down and turn off elevations by unchecking it. Hit OK. Hit OK again. And now the elevations disappear. And just for the heck of it, let's go into the model overrides and go down to doors and turn those off. Now I'll turn off doors. Now, really quickly, we want to actually show the doors, so let's just undo or Control Z. All right, and we have that done. All right, so we have it set here as architectural plan. If we go in and set the architectural plan for the second floor and hit OK, now what happens is the elevations get turned off for the second floor plan. Now we want the elevations on the second floor plan. So, but we want them to have the same kind of view properties for the most part. So a really interesting way to get around that is to go back into the view template, go to, or actually go next to the annotation visibility graphics and uncheck include. Now this is a little bit tricky. For what we're doing right now, it doesn't really matter, but if there's a lot of heavy annotation similarities between drawings, not including it may not be the best idea. But for what we're doing right now, I just want to show you kind of the operability of it. So if I uncheck include, right, and hit OK, what I can then do is click on the drawing, go over to the visibility graphics, hit edit, and everything, if you went over here before, everything that is controlled by the view template is now grayed out, meaning that you have to go into the view template to be able to manipulate those. But since we unchecked annotation categories, they are now live, and we can go in and change them from drawing to drawing. So we'll go down, scroll down, hit elevations, press OK, and now they populate back up. All right. But now we still have visibility control of the floor plan. So if we go back into the architectural plan view template and go down to shadows and hit cast shadows, let's do that real quick. Now we can see that that's done it to both drawings at the same time, and obviously they're pretty obnoxious right now. But you can go into lighting, and I don't know why these controls are not under shadows, but if you go in and turn the shadows down to like 7 or 8, just so that they're there, but they're a little bit lighter and less obnoxious, hit OK, it turns it down a little bit. The other thing, right now it's projecting the second floor down onto the ground, and it doesn't look great. And one of the things that we can do to control that is editing the view range of the plan. So I think I said it a little bit last time, but I'll go over it again. If we go into the template, and view range is actually something that I typically don't include a lot, because you want to be able to manipulate the view range per drawing. But if we uncheck that and uninclude it, and then for this specific drawing for level 2, we go into the edit view range under the extents tab in the properties browser. Go to view range, and then go view depth. Okay. It's interesting. I wonder why it's propagating the shadow. Huh. That's weird. I don't like that. All right. Okay. I don't know why that's doing that. Let's see what it looks like if we change it to unlimited. It doesn't do much. All right. That's weird. So one thing that we can do, we could go off, turn off shadows again, but I don't want to. I want to crop this view. So I want to crop the shadow so it's not overlapping my title block and not kind of bleeding onto the page. So I can do that by going over to the viewport, hit crop view, and then I want to make sure that that crop view is visible so I can manipulate it. So this outer box is the crop view region, and to manipulate it, you can right click, activate view, or double click and then just click on it, and you can drag it into however far you want to include it. I gotta do then is hit OK, and then you can turn off that crop region by unchecking there. And there you go. I think this is the, yeah, it's just the floor. Okay. So, where has our elevations gone? Oh, that's interesting. So because we had our crop region over the elevations, they disappeared. So we just gotta drag them out to include them again, and then we can hit crop. Uncheck that. Where are the actual so if you click on the arrow on the elevation tab, it'll highlight where the elevation is actually being taken from. Because it's outside of the crop region, that's why it hides those tags. So what we got to do is just drag them in to be very close to the face of the building. And then let's try this again. There we go. And now they are visible. And I think you should be able to drag this in. Yeah, because they're annotation elements, they won't get cropped out unless you go to the annotation crop tab and hit check and then drag those in. But I don't love having that. The only reason you do that is if you have a bunch of annotations from a previous drawing that you're trying to crop out, or if you have elevation or other tags like this that are kind of floating off in space. So now that we have the drawing cropped with our elevation tags visible, let's turn off the crop region. And so they're a little small right now. And one thing we can do is change the scale. And to do that, since the scale right now is tied to our view template, we have to go into our view template, architectural plan. Up at the top, our view scale is right there. We can click and we can either make it tinier or bigger. So let's do a 1/4 of an inch. It's gonna make it big. All right, obviously that's way too big. So let's go back in, go to 3/16. That's still kind of big, especially for this size of paper. Remember, you should always do test prints just to see how it translates from your computer, just looking at it on the screen, to what the actual size is, because a lot of times it turns out a lot larger than what you were expecting. So actually, let's go to a smaller scale. Let's go to 1/16 of an inch. Ooh, very tiny. This is all about just finding the right size. All right, this is kind of nice. Let's drag those title blocks in. Let's drag it down. I'm using the arrow buttons right now, arrow keys, excuse me. The nice thing too, to get these aligned, which with my OCD is very important. So you can click and drag, and once it's aligned on one side, the dash bar comes up. And then if you want to change the length, click on the drawing again, click that button, and then once you have it aligned, those dashed lines will pop up again. All right. So now that we have it smaller, we can actually probably add in the roof level. And real complicated stuff, that nice white outline. But we can add our roof template in. So go into architectural plan, changes the scale. Of course, it adds that shadow in again. So what we want to do is first we want to align it. Oh, and it doesn't look like our drawings were aligned before. Remember that dash line in the center. And then we want to go in, crop the view, make our crop region visible. Drag it in. And then change the title, location to match. Alright, and then for this one, I just want to have the elevations on the second floor plan, so we can turn them off for the roof. So once again, we can, since we unincluded the annotation visibility graphics in the drawing or the view template, we can go into the individual drawings, visibility graphics, go over to annotation categories, scroll down and uncheck elevations and turn those off. Okay. And I'm going to turn the crop region on again just to crop this a little bit more. And boom. All right. So now we have our 3 plans aligned on the drawing. Now we'll include the elevations. So let's do elevations. So right now we just have the north and east. So all we gotta do, drag this on. And so this is at 3/32. And we can probably do, let's keep it at an 1/8 right now. So right now our level extents are pretty wide, as you can see. So we can just double click, activate into the view, and then click on the level, and it'll propagate this dashed line, which means all of these levels are locked. And if we go in, you can kind of see it right there. It's a very thin outline of a circle. If you click that and drag it, it will drag all of the level extents over. Now, right here you see this 3D. So this means that it's changing the overall 3-dimensional extents of the levels. So if I change it here, that means that in the if I created a new elevation to the north, all those levels would be lined up in the same exact place. Now if I go and change, if I click 3D, it's going to switch it to 2D, and that means that it's only changing the level, the visual extents. How do I say this? So this is just visually changing the level for this view only. It's not changing the actual level extents for the entire project. It's just changing the visual extents of it in this drawing. And you can see where the actual extent is still by that blue outline of the circle. So that's where it really is in the entire project. And we're just changing it for here just for visual sake. Like if you have a half of this elevation, you want to do a blow up, right? And you don't want like half, or here, let's do it real quick. So let's crop this view. And visibility on. So let's say we cropped it. Now, the visual extent of it will change with the crop. So if we cropped in this guy as well, then it'll change down. But because we've moved it in beyond the actual extents of the level, if we click the level, you can see that those 2 circles are still on the outside, and now we have just changed the 2D extent, and you can adjust that here, and it doesn't change the overall. It's a really long-winded answer to just say that that's how to move and adjust levels, and just be aware of the 3D versus 2D when you're changing them, because it can have an effect when you go up to set up another drawing, another elevation or a section, etc. Right, so right now these still are on 2D. And to get them back to their 3D, we can just drag them. So you can drag them over to it, and it should change to 3D. Either way, let us put that here. Let's adjust the title block like so. And then let's drag in the east elevation. Probably have to do the same thing here. Can drag the 3D extents. That is a really interesting cantilever. All right. So the nice thing about this, which we can do, so we could change these elevations, and let's put a view template on so we're adjusting the visibility graphics of both at the same time. So let's click on one of the elevations, go into view template, let's do an architectural elevation, press OK. Same thing for the other elevation, press OK. All right, so now let's go in, let's change the scale to be the same as the plans. 3/32, right? Is that what we did? Yep. All right, and then once again, we want to align these drawings to each other so that they're on the same plane. So when we move them down, we wait until that dashed line appears in the middle, and then we can adjust the drawing titles to fit a little bit better. All right, and then this has the section view, section crop on. You can turn that off. And then let's move this down to the bottom of the page. All right, so that kind of fits nicely. Now, we want this to be a little bit more graphically pleasing. Right now, it's kind of just all a flat image. So what we can do is go into the view template and let's go to model display first. Let's go from hidden line to shaded. That'll give us a little bit of color. Press OK. And then go down to shadows. Let's turn on ambient and cast shadows. And then let's go to lighting and just turn those shadows down again a little bit more. 20 is fine, I guess. Ambient light, let's turn on 20. Press OK. And I think that's good for right now. Press OK. Whoa. That is a gross shade of blue. All right, so now that we have this shaded, what we want to do is go in and change the shade of the glass. So to do that, we can tab in to the curtain panel, right? So just hit the tab until you see an outline, and of course it's kind of hard to see since it's blue, but there is an outline right now along the entire perimeter of the curtain panel. Click that, then go to edit type and go to the material. So this brings up all the properties of that curtain panel. So how far it's offset from the center of the curtain wall line, the thickness of it, we can change the thickness, but also the most important, relevant to what we're trying to do now, is the material. So it's glass material. And once again, you have to click into the material to bring up this 3-dot button, which is very discreet, and I don't understand why they don't make it a little bit more apparent, but click that. That'll bring up the material browser, and that is where we can manipulate the shade of blue for the glass. So right now, see it under shading, it's gross. So let's change it. So let's put it down to a little bit more of a gray blue and lighten it a lot. Press OK. Press OK and press OK. And now we've kind of lost the effect of it. So it's a little bit too light. So you can either go in, edit the panel again, edit the material, and edit the shading, or we can just go directly to the material browser under Manage up at the top. Under Manage, all the way at the left is the materials browser, and the nice thing is if you click that, it will highlight the last material that you edit. So for us, it's glass, and it brings up the glass material. We can make it a little bit bluer. It's a little purple. Press OK, press OK. Alright, so that's a little bit nicer. And then the ambient shadows, we can change a little bit by going back into the lighting. Oop, sorry, gotta edit the lighting. Let's turn the ambient light to 0, shadows to 10 to 12. And this is all just playing around, like especially when you're going up to set up your, there we go, a little bit more ambient light. All right, so that's a little bit nicer. Then you start to read a little bit more of the material properties. Obviously the wood is pretty prominent. And why did our glass... Let's try and make it darker. For some reason the ambient light made it even lighter or whiter, so it's interesting. Make it 100% transparency for right now, just to get the consistency. Huh, that's so weird. Oh, can't be 100% transparent. It has to be, sorry, 0%. Huh. I've never had this happen before. It's weird, there's like a threshold. Either way, get it so that you can at least distinguish the glass from the white walls. And then one thing that we can add in here is a ground plane. You can actually create a topography surface that will cut through, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for right now, and for a lot of our projects, what we do is we just add a two-dimensional ground plane in by adding a filled region. So if we double click or activate the view, we can go up to the annotate tab, hit region. How am I doing on time? Okay. And then it'll bring up this filled region boundary window that allows you to draw lines, just kind of like the like if we're creating a floor or a roof. It brings up a two-dimensional drawing window. And then over at the right hand side under properties, we can change what the eventual solid filled region will be. So we can do like a diagonal up pattern, cross hatching pattern, the wood pattern, or we can do a solid color. So this is solid black. We can just select that for right now and then go into edit type and go up at the top and hit duplicate. And let's just create a solid gray. Oops, and have caps off. Solid gray, and then go into the foreground pattern color, which is what we'll primarily be adjusting. Let's go to a lighter shade of gray, hit OK, and hit OK again. And then we'll draw just a rectangle. So up at the top, select the rectangle drawing tool, just draw a window, and then hit yes, and now it's created a ground plane. We can do the same thing over here. Now, I don't believe we have the crop region on, so you'll be able to see the entire thing. What we've got to do is just go over to the the properties, hit crop view, adjust the region so that it's relatively the same as the other. We can go in, uncheck, and we have one primarily the same. We can go in and drag He's out. All right. And now we have two elevations set up that are pretty close to each other. Now let's do a 3D view. Let's do a nice big 3D view. Or actually, excuse me, let's do sections. So to do a section, to cut a section, what we can do is go into a floor plan view. So double click or right click activate. And then go up to the view template up at the top and hit section underneath the create group. Hit section, and then let's cut one through the middle of the floor. So just click once, drag or pan down with your mouse, and then click again, it'll create it. Then this gives you the extent of the section, right? So the right extent will be on this side, the left extent will be on this side. It's facing this way as shown by the arrow, and this is how far the extents are going to be. So if I didn't want to show this far wall, I can drag the extent back, and now it will cut off at this back line. But I want to see all that information, so I'll drag it back out. Now, you can go in and double click, right, and bring up that specific section. You can also, if we go back to level 2, you can go to the project browser and go down to the sections, and since we only have one section in the building, it will be the section 1, and bring it up that way. Once again, we'll want to adjust these level indicators. We'll want to, and it's at 3/32. It comes in, that's one thing to mention, when you take a section, it comes in at the same scale as the floor plan of which it was cut. So our floor plan is 3/32 of an inch. So the default scale of the section is going to be 3/32 of an inch. All right, and then we can do, let's do a view template, architectural section, press, let's change this to 3/32, press OK. And then one thing, so with sections, you want to see what you're actually cutting through. So if we go, and this is where we can start to manipulate poche. So architectural section, go into the view template, go to the visibility graphic override model. So we will want to manipulate the model components of this, specifically the floors, the walls, and the roof. So let's go down to floors first. Select that, right? So underneath this floors tab, you can manipulate the projection and surface visibility of it, as well as the cut patterns of it and the lines. So for floors, what we can do is override the pattern for a cut pattern. And then right now there's no override, so it's just default. What we can do is click into that, go down to solid fill, hit OK, and then let's change the poche to just like a nice dark gray. Press OK as well. And then let's do that for walls. And so scroll down to walls, go over to override, cut patterns, down, hit solid fill, solid gray, press OK. And then what else? Roofs. So scroll up to roofs, solid fill, gray, OK. All right. If we hit OK then, and then hit OK again, now you can see that we have pochade walls and floors. To make it even a little nicer, we can change the poche of different elements. So if we go back into the model override, go down to walls, and change the pattern to a lighter gray. Not that lighter gray, just a little bit. Press OK, press OK, press OK. And we can distinguish the cut patterns of it. And then even further, if we want to go in and change everything beyond the cut to more of like a grayscale, you can go back into the model, and go down to like walls, since that's primarily what's in our foreground right now. We can change the projection surface. You can actually change the transparent. No, let's just change the lines. So change the projection lines. Don't override the pattern, but go to color and change it to a light gray. Press OK. And then the other thing that we have, so one thing to be cognizant of is that walls and the curtain panels and wall mullions are different. They distinguish between each other. So to make sure that we capture both the curtain wall and the basic walls, we want to change the color of the mullions and the projection lines of the curtain panels. Alright, so we've changed the curtain panel lines, the curtain wall mullions, and the walls themselves. Press OK, press Alright. Alright, so now we get a really nice clean wall section. Distinguish the wall poche from the floor and roof poche, as well as kind of half-tone everything that's beyond the section cut. Alright. And we can do that as well, so we can change the railings specifically as well. So go back into the view template, go into the model visibility, and scroll down to railings. Change the projection lines to gray. Change you can't change the patterns. Very interesting. Alright, well, we'll just leave that there. Alright, press OK, press Alright. Why did that not change? Huh. I don't know why that didn't change. That's odd. I wonder if it's because it's being cut through, that it might not distinguish itself since it's the element that's being cut through. It should, but maybe not. All right, so either way, it's a pretty decent section. We can also go in to the Annotate tab, create a ground plane for us again with the filled region. The one thing to also be cognizant of when we're creating a filled region is the line style. So right now we have thin lines on, which is just a really nice thin line, but we can change it to a wider line. And if we hit check, so the reason why we can't distinguish it right now is because we have our thin lines up at the top on to be able to kind of distinguish between objects and have really nice crisp control over everything. But if we go up at the top to this thick line to thin line and uncheck that, you can see that the wide line that we just associated with the filled region is much thicker than the rest of the lines. And it also distinguishes the roof line from the floor line. And you got to be aware of this because this is what it's going to print at, right? So, and it also, the line weights change based on scale. So for instance, right, if we change the scale to a really larger scale, like a smaller scale, I guess, 1 inch equals 200 feet. And these lines are going to get real thick, right? Because they change based on the actual size of the drawing when it's scaled down. And same with the size of the text and everything. So be aware of that when you're setting up your sheets and your drawings, that your line weights are close to what you want them to be. The one thing we'll go in and control or change the floor section right now, because right now it's at a different line weight than the roof. And then I swear we'll be done with the sections. So go down to floors, and then under cut section lines, we can change the weight to like a 3, and then go down to roof, and to make sure that they're the same, change it to 3 as well. Press OK, press alright, and now they're both the same. Alright? And you can make it thicker, you can make it thinner, but for right now, we'll just leave it at that. Go back to our sheet. And right now, you can see that we have sections cutting through all of these. We can go in and edit their specific annotation visibility graphics by going down and turning off sections. Same thing with the first floor plan, edit visibility graphics, annotation categories, sections. All right. And then we can go into our elevation and drag that up so it's not cutting through the title. And then we can drag the section 1 onto our sheet. And there we go. And we can just adjust the section, or the title. And we can probably figure out a more interesting way to lay this out. Actually, I wonder if we get rid of the roof plan, since that's not really giving us a lot of information. Let's get rid of the roof plan. Let's take these two drawings and drag them up. And then let's take this section and put it down here. Make sure it's aligned with that center line with the elevations. And then center this guy a little bit more. And of course my computer is freezing. There we go. We can just put these guys up a little bit. Oh man, my computer is really lagging behind today. Okay. And then the last thing we'll do, we can turn the crop region off here. All right, so the last one that we'll do is really simply a 3D view. So to do a 3D view, what you got to do is go into a floor plan. So we can just do that here in the sheet, activate the view, and then go up to view up at the top and go under 3D view. If you hit the drop down window next to it, you'll have this camera, and what it'll bring up this camera icon around your mouse along the floor plan, and you can go out of the view if you want. I'll keep it in for right now, but for our final, we'll have to go outside. So if you click and then pan your mouse down, you can see that it shows you the extents of the camera, so the left and right extents, as well as the far boundary, the cutoff point. So I'm going to do that again, 3D view camera, but then I'm going to take it outside a little bit and click, come all the way down so it's capturing all of the building. And you can change the extents once it's taken, so don't freak out if you're not capturing the entire building the first time. And click, and it will bring up the view. Now, you can change the extent of it a little bit so that it captures more of the building. Over at the right-hand side under properties, you'll see an eye elevation and a target elevation. You can also change that. So we took this 3D view in the second floor plan, so that means that it's taking it at a 5.5 foot elevation, basically where your eye line, a typical eye line would be, above the finished floor. So it's at 20 feet 6 inches. That's 5.5 feet above the finished floor line of 15 feet. So we can change this by changing it down to the 5.5 feet. And then the other thing is the target elevation is that far line that we dragged when we originally created this view. It's all the way in the back. And one thing I don't like about that is it takes the verticals and skews them. So all you got to do, and in architecture, in the profession, if you're taking a professional photograph, if you're doing a professional rendering, you always want a true 2-point perspective with all the verticals being true vertical. So to do that, all you got to do is copy the eye elevation that you have, paste it into the target elevation, and it'll basically orient itself to a 2-point perspective. and then you just got to click the extents and drag it so that you capture the entire building. All right. All right, and you can turn that crop region view off if you want. And then I don't know why this isn't. There we go. And let's go into our sheet again on the left-hand side. And we can probably change this name from floor plans to just overall drawings, let's say. All right. One thing to also point out while we're here, so once you drag the drawings onto a sheet, they then become associated with that sheet, and there's a number next to it. So these elevations are 4 and 5 on A100 sheet. This section is drawing number 6 on A100. Those indicators are here. So number 2, number 3, or excuse me, that's number 1, 6, 4. So that's basically, if these were all on different sheets, it tells the contractor or the other architect looking at this what sheet that drawing is on, so they can easily flip to it and navigate the drawing set. That's very important. And just real quick, since we have this somewhat organized, we can go in to change the name or change the number. What you got to do, instead of clicking on the actual name itself, the title name, you got to click on the drawing just once, and then it'll highlight the drawing name, and then you can click on that and change the name, and you can click on the number, change the number. Now, since we already have a 1, it's going to say it's already in use and you can't change it. So what I typically do is just do like 2 of the same number until I cycle through all the drawings. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so that's good. 1, 2, 3. All right, now it's somewhat organized from left to right, up and down. So we can go into our 3D view. That 3D view that we created, the camera, is called 3D view 1. You can click, drag it in. Now it's pretty out of scale, right? We want this to be pretty big. So what we can do is go in, click it, double click in, or right click, activate view. Check that crop region visible again so that we bring it up. Click on the crop region, and for 3D views, what you can do is up at the top under modify cameras is a size crop, right? If you click on that, it'll tell you the exact dimensions of this crop view, and what you can do is change it. Now, field of view is essentially saying that if I take this and I make it 12 inches, that'll take the field of view of this, and if I hit apply, it'll just change it and open the, excuse me, woo, excuse me. It'll change the overall width to 12 inches, but it won't scale the perspective, right? And that's not what we want. So if we cancel, change it back, go in, click it again, size crop, what we want to do is scale. So change the field of view to scale, and then what we can do is change the overall dimensions of the entire thing. And these have locked proportions. So when I change this to, let's say, 18 inches, it's going to change the height proportionally to the size of the field of view. And then when we click that, then it changes the overall dimension. And for 3D views, sometimes you'll have a title, sometimes you won't. For the sake of this course, you can turn it off by clicking the drawing, going under viewport, under properties, and just click no title. Now it doesn't have any title. You can go in, turn off the crop region, so it's just kind of floating in space. And then of course you can go in and change the visibility graphics of it. You can create a view template for it, or we can just do it manually, and I'll show you how to do that. So click into the drawing, activate the view, And then those graphic properties for each individual view are located down here. So if we wanted to turn the shadows on, we can just click that one shadow here. If we want to change the graphic display options, you just click that box, hit shaded, you can change it there. We can go to consistent colors. Oh, I didn't realize that those were gray. I thought they were white. Well, you can change that if you want. We'll do shaded for right now. Let's go to, oops. Let's click that. Go up to the top, graphic display options. Let's go to shadows. Let's turn on ambient shadows. Let's turn down the actual shadows and turn out the ambient light. And then I'm going to really quickly change the material to white for the generic 8-inch wall, just so it's all consistent. Press OK, press OK, press OK. All right, now we have our sheet. It's 24 by 36 inches. It's laid out pretty nicely. I'm sure most of you are going to create some pretty cool layouts, pretty cool graphic styles. And we'll do this pretty consistently throughout the course. But once we have this done, to print out a PDF of this, what we want to do is go to File, Print, and then under Printer, we can do the drop down. And after you install that PDF creator, it should show up here. And then what we want to do under Print Range, so you can print out multiple sheets at one time, which is very helpful if you have like a full 50-page document set. But for right now, we just want to print out the current window that we have open. So just hit that and then go to Setup down at the bottom right. And this is where we can set our page size, which is a 24 by 36, which is also known as an Arc D size. Make sure it's under landscape. And then since we know that it is 100% 24 by 36, the page is set up that way, we can just put zoom 100% and it will offset from the bottom left corner. And then down here you can like hide different things if you want, like hide crop boundaries, which is pretty helpful. Hide if you have a section that isn't associated with a certain sheet that won't print, and you can change those down here. Press OK. Press OK. Wait a little bit. Since these do have a lot of drawings in it, it'll take a little bit, and then, depending on what printer, Adobe PDF, Bluebeam, whatever, it'll have probably a different window than this. For the PDF creator, you can use, it'll pop up with this guy, and then what you'll want to do is change the file name. Actually, I think if you just go to this ... do the ... navigate to whatever folder you want it to save as, and then save it as whatever name. So comp practice first sheet. It's okay. And then hit save. All right, and then it will have created it. Press OK. And I think it's trying to open right now. Close this and just open it in PDF. So there you go. All right, so what I want you to do is submit this PDF as your attendance, all right? And then for the homework, we'll get into more of the conceptual massing. There'll be a small task for you guys to do. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.